teaching anthropology as a graduate student, so a class here and there, I would ask students about their international experiences and where they'd been, and most students hadn't been very far. They'd maybe taken a trip, a cruise to the Caribbean or something like that, tourist kinds of things. But then when I came to Wheaton College in 2001, a Christian college here in the Midwest, I asked students the same question, and students had been to Outer Mongolia and Northern Ghana and China and South Africa, places that a lot of North Americans wouldn't normally go. And they'd all gone to do the same thing, which was a short-term mission trip. They'd gone for 2 weeks, they'd built something, they'd had an experience with kids there. And it was intriguing to me because they were talking about it in such similar ways. They'd been to such different places, but they'd had similar experiences. A lot of these students, though, were a little unsettled by the experience. They weren't sure what to really make of it. They talked about it in these ways. They talked about what they learned, how God changed them. They talked about people being poor and happy, but they also felt like, did we do any good? Did this really accomplish anything? You know, what was really the purpose of these trips? But they would keep wanting to go because they saw them as an opportunity to grow on these trips. I was very intrigued by this language, this ways that people talked about this, that overlapped so much from Latin America to Africa to Asia to Europe. So I thought, as an anthropologist, what better thing to do than to study this and to get with a team and find out how they are prepared for this trip, what do they do when they go on the trip, how do they talk about it, and then how do they talk about it when they come back. So I designed a project to try to figure out, where does this language come from and how does it shape the experience that people have? Narrative is the way that we understand everything in the world. We understand our family because our families tell us stories about our ancestors and about ourselves, and we remember our childhood and we tell these stories to other people. Narratives are the ways that we understand values in our society. We have narratives about George Washington never telling a lie, and we have narratives about, you know, pilgrims landing on Plymouth Rock and so forth. And we have narratives from Scripture. It's the story of God through the beginning of creation, through with His people to the ministry of Jesus, that we understand who God is. And so narratives that we hear from others and narratives that we tell about ourselves are how we understand everything in the world. And it's true for missions as well, that we understand what is important and what we want to do, and we understand what we did by the ways that we tell stories about it when we come back. So I was very interested in the ways that these narratives, while they're the way that we understand, they can also be a way that they shape and maybe even restrict some of the things that we understand. So if we really want to get a sense of where are these trips going and what do they mean, we need to see how these narratives develop and how they get used and how we learn from them as we go on. I wanted to write a book that wasn't just against short-term missions, because I'm not against short-term missions. I'm an anthropologist. I want people to travel. I want people to engage the world beyond their own context. And I want Christians especially to do that, because the church is booming around the world right now, and I think North Americans have a lot to learn and a lot to give in helping Christians everywhere to fulfill the Great Commission. But this is what I hope this book will do. It'll help people to partner and to connect rather than just going. You know, it's easy to get on a plane and go somewhere, but it's harder to know what to do once you get there and how to be part of what God is doing in a place that you don't know well, that you don't have a lot of time to learn the language or to really understand the context. But I don't think that should stop us from going. We shouldn't just, okay, I can't be a long-term missionary, so I shouldn't do anything at all. I think we need to think about, how do we make connections? And I hope this book will help people to know how they can make stronger, better, more faithful connections with the church around the world.